So I thought we'd get started. Thanks for coming, everybody, tonight. I'm Todd Workman. I'm here representing Permacity Life, Perma short for Permaculture. We're a non-profit redevelopment group that's purchased a good chunk of downtown Franklin with the goal of revitalizing our community based on the principles of permaculture, which takes time to do. First step is to acquire critical mass of the portfolio of real estate, systematically find out the highest and best use and how the parts fit together to make a better whole. And in doing so, we're partnering a lot with Phillips College, and they've created a new degree program in community-based sustainability and opened a small satellite campus in downtown Franklin. But I don't want to steal the show tonight and talk about us. Tonight's a special night. We have a repeat performance. We have Josh Trought here from DAcres, and we have Michael Phillips. They were both here, I think, probably 2 years ago now, doing a film screening of Inhabit, with a panel discussion afterwards. So it's great. Welcome back again. Good to have you here. Josh is going to talk first. I think all of you know where Josh is from. Josh is probably the preeminent expert on permaculture in New Hampshire. He's got DAcres up in Rumney, which has done wonderful things. If you really think about it, permaculture can offer solutions to all problems, because it's the parts and the pieces make a whole, and really come up with smart solutions that work together. And we're at a hotbed of permaculture in New Hampshire with the three permaculture meetup groups, what's going on at DAcres, in Phillips College, what's going on here in downtown Franklin. So it's quite exciting to know that we're at the forefront of what's happening that can change on how we live and how we work and how we manage our waste and our energy, our economy, our sense of community, recreation, society. There's nothing missing in this process. And it's really special tonight to have Michael Phillips here as well. This is the New Hampshire premiere rollout of Michael's new book. It's Michael Rizal Planet. He's got 3 or 4 other books and DVDs for sale. Please make sure that sometime before you leave tonight you buy a copy, and you can ask Michael. I'm sure he's willing to sign it however you'd like him to and put his name on it. They're $40. It's important to support these books and what they can do for us. So with that being said, I just wanted to also make a couple announcements. I wanted to thank Oscar Gallagrano. Is Oscar still here?
No, he just left the base.
Oscar's from the Netherlands. He came here and set up shop and opened up a co-working space spanning 2 second floors. He's formerly of the Netherlands, and he's here doing work for IKEA and getting spaces like this open. And Nicolette, his wife over here, is kind of our community activist. What was it, 2 weeks ago? 2 weeks ago we held an activist meeting here with the ACLU to look at ways to combat some things that aren't heading in the right direction in our government. So I'd just like to give Nicolette a chance to put a plug in for where we are from the ACLU.
Todd didn't tell me he was going to do that, but thank you. We held a meeting for the ACLU to contact our local police, especially our chiefs of police, and at the county level with the sheriffs, to make sure that they are willing to protect our at-risk immigrant populations. So it was an outreach just to ensure that they are going to follow the actual laws as they are written and to not just take orders from above or allow ICE agents to come in and move people out without making sure that they're following the appropriate protocols. So that's what we're working on, ensuring that our neighbors are being protected by our Constitution that they came here for. So,
is this going to be a sanctioned city?
We are not applying for sanctuary city status at this time, but the laws as they are written, we just wanted to put them out, and they already protect our immigrant populations. So we want to make sure that they continue to be respected. So
can I ask the question, what was the response?
So far we have meetings set up across, we had 7 or 8 communities represented, and they're meeting their police in Guilford, in Andover, in East Andover, and Nashua and Merrimack, and Franklin, Guilford, Laconia, so kind of all over. And they've been good meetings so far. They seem supportive, and all the police were very welcoming when they were reached out to about having a meeting with community members about this topic. So it's going well. Thank you.
Great. And so it's easy to talk at an event like this with anyone in the room. Any one of you here tonight could be up in a panel meeting discussion group, because you all believe in it. You already believe in it. You're here because you want to learn more about the technical advice, the aspects of it, improve your knowledge base. But really, all of you are stewards, and I liked what Josh said about talking about our founding fathers and revolutionaries. And these two guys right here, Michael and Josh, they are our new founding fathers. They are our new revolutionaries. And it really depends upon you to spread the word. Here, we all talk to ourselves, preaching to the choir. There's not much going on here. You learn advice and skills and context, but it's really our job to take other folks that aren't believers and educate them as to why this is so important and expand the base. So there's more followers, and it's true. I mean, it's important that we move beyond people that already believe in it and learn more, finite skills. We got to spread it to the broader masses. But I won't go on too much. But I just want to say, I'm personally not the kind of a person that grew up with this stuff. I mean, I did grow up in a certain way with vegetable gardens by financial default, which maybe a permaculture is by monetary needs, having no money in the family. But I just want to tell you a little example today. I went grocery shopping today. And I'm embarrassed that, I went to grocery shopping today. I went to Market Basket. And I was dumbfounded by it. I went to Market Basket today. I've been watching a lot of documentaries. I go on topdocumentaries.com and I get really inspired. And I really wound up on different reasons to be vegan. And we could argue whether you should or shouldn't be vegan. But today I did a vegan grocery shop at Market Basket. It's a big store and it's crowded. And I would say that you could take all the aisles and reduce it to 2 aisles. And that's all I picked from. I have my grocery cart. It's a big store. I've done that. Nothing here, next aisle, nothing here, next aisle, nothing here. There was very little I could put in my grocery cart. And I also shopped organic and vegan. And it was dumbfounding how little I could put into my grocery cart. There was nothing there. And I thought, geez, maybe somebody could make a grocery store that eliminate all those aisles I don't buy anything in, make my job easier, and make my choices much easier. And it kind of seems to me like an 80-20%. It seemed like about 20% of what was in the store I could buy with my prerequisites. And then I started thinking, of that 20% I could buy and put in my cart, how much of that could I grow on my own if I listened to these guys, learned how to do it myself the right way? And the bits and pieces I couldn't do on my own, where could I buy those sustainably in my own regional economy? And it seems so simple, but why aren't we doing that? And why isn't it easier for someone like me to have a simple system so I can find that and I can do that? And I think we're going to get there eventually. And it started making me thinking, where did all this start? I mean, my grandfather came across the boat from Scotland as an immigrant with, a letter of reference and no money in his pocket. And, everything was organic, right? Everything was organic, everything was regional, and everything was self-sufficient. And this town here, Franklin, I mean, we survived without nothing coming in. In fact, in Franklin, we grew agriculture and put in the trains and shipped back to Boston to provide for them. And then the Industrial Revolution came around the turn of the century. Trains started going back and forth. We had mechanized machinery, right? I'm a Luddite myself. And we thought we'd mechanize the system so that we could have more leisure time, right? We'd eliminate manpower with machine power to have more free time to enjoy ourselves, right? Lay back and relax. Instead, we just concentrate the power into how many millions of acres of land owned by a few people. That was the end result of the Industrial Revolution. And so it kind of backfired. It didn't work well. We're kind of lucky in our neck of the woods that we have a cold climate and rocky hillsides. And before chemical fertilizers and pesticides came to use, the farmer already shipped to the breadbasket, so our soil is still pretty healthy. It's not polluted, it's not depleted, so we're not in bad shape. But I mean, it's so dumbfounding to think of all of our existence of mankind that we've only been fucking it up for the last 100 years. But really bad. In just 100 years. There was no machinery or technology. Our head and our heart and our mind are out of sync here. As soon as we can invent something, we put it to use before we think about the consequences of it. It's only been 100 years since screwing up the land. That's it. 100 years, we can screw up that whole topsoil. It took hundreds of years to create and thousands of years to create, and we can screw up in a second with machines and technology and blow it for all of us. And if you really think about it, it's not just the last 100 years. It's really only the last, since the end of World War II, we really made it really bad. I mean, we created the ingredients that made what's now fertilizer was made for bombs. At the end of the war was over, we had a surplus supply of stuff that made bombs that conveniently made fertilizer. And that was the advent of our monocrop and our mass manufacturing of food as an industrialized commodity. And basically what happened is we just basically said, hey, it's silly to have to rotate our crops and maintain our soil and our topsoil and our mycelium and all that stuff. Let's just put massive acres and consolidate to a few big things and make it a factory, our farming, and no problem. Instead of rotating our crops and supplying nutrients, let's take petroleum-based chemicals called fertilizer and put the soil to make it work. And with the monocrop culture, there's no biodiversity, so the pesticides and the bugs come in. So let's just take our petroleum and let's just make that into pesticides to spray and make it happen. And that's what we did. And then we created a system where we concentrated in one part of the country or one part of the world and used petroleum-based fuel to truck it to everywhere else we could. And then let's base petroleum-based packaging products to make it last and get it to our houses comfortably. And then let's make, then that wasn't enough. Let's Monsanto Roundup Ready seeds so that you have to buy your seeds every year to guarantee it. And that happened so quick, so fast. So fast. 100 years, really only since World War II, so since 1945, all this happened. And it's dumbfounding that all that happened since the end of World War II, and we all sit here as if it just gradually happened and evolved. It happened very, very quickly, to all of our detriment. And it's insane how that happened and how it doesn't wake all of us up to call to action. I don't understand that. I think it's time to do things about that. And I remember, just to put a fine point on that, even regarding the petroleum-based transportation and packaging, I think it was about 3 or 4 years ago, it was the 4th of July weekend here, and I was going to go to the grocery store buy some stuff for a family gathering, and a big 18-wheeler was distracted and hit a telephone pole, and the power went out. And I went to Hannaford's in Guilford, and I got there about 2 hours after the car accident, and trust me, they have a generator. And it doesn't cover every outlet in the store. Those little plastic things they flap down, with their refrigeration. Those things just started to flap. That was 4th of July because this place is packed. We're a tourism state. And the store was packed. And those little plastic wraps, now people were running ahead trying to reach behind the plastic wrap to get their food, their cheese, and ice cream were melted, right? Because the food was going to be gone. It was like crazy. They're fighting for it. And you get to the front where the cash register was, but it was only a couple cash registers that were open, and that little thing you put your conveyor belt, you put your food on, that brings it through. Well, that shut down. That wasn't on the generator, so you had to schlep your own food down the line. And people were so exasperated and frustrated. There was only like 2 lines you could go to. It was like out the door, and you couldn't get when you wanted to. And it amazed me how quickly our system shut down. So I studied and researched it, and I read this, that we only have a 3-day supply of food in our grocery stores. A 3-day supply. It doesn't come from anywhere around here. Nowhere around here. And it seems so silly that back when this town here had no electricity, it was powered from the river. The first electricity in St. Andrews made in Burbank Bill. Over here, we bought that building and we sold to a housing development for affordable housing. But it's just so amazing how quickly our system could break down. We screwed it up so quick since the Industrial Revolution turn of the century, since World War II, and we rely on it, and we're so dependent on things that are not dependable. It does not take much to disrupt the system. And why aren't we taking a local economy, a local food supply, and using the good benefits of technology to make it easier to have it local produced instead of consolidating hands of a few? And these guys, revolutionaries, are telling you that. And I can't understand half what he says over here with Michael, but mycelium is running, and it's so important that topsoil there and everything happens. That's the lifeblood of every existence on the planet. And we destroy it so willy-nilly, and we let it go so fast and so furious. It's just, it took centuries to get where we are. We blow it.
Although I think that's indicative that it's fast that we can take it back. So
we can.
With every acre and with every person who's working to start their own small homestead, that we can reclaim that by buying heirloom seeds and by going off the wisdom of people who are already using these practices, that we can reclaim that.
And we need to. And like I said, I don't understand what Michael says, but I know everything is really important. And when it comes to permaculture, it's whole system design. The parts of the pieces work together. And nature's got that really well figured out. And our arrogance of our desire to invent technology and machinery to disrupt it is so wrong. It's a great system that took millions of years to perfect itself. And it's there and it's great. Let's work with it, not against it. And let's spread the word to people that aren't in the room tonight, the people that don't get it, that need to get it. That's your job, is to join the revolution and spread that word and make it happen. And tonight, to me, I work for Permacity Life. Perma is short for permaculture. And we got to get there slowly but surely. But, I want to make a pledge to Michael Phillips tonight that this is the rollout, the grand opening of this book in New Hampshire tonight. And our nonprofit is going to guarantee him 20 book sales tonight. There's 29 people here tonight. 2 of them are presenting, so there's 27 potential buyers of books in the room tonight. Whatever we fall short, we're going to write a check out for the difference and send it to Michael for 20 books. I mean, if we can't buy 20 books, what he's doing is something wrong with us. So I'd like to open up to questions. Anybody for either one of these folks? Yes.
A question for Michael. At the beginning of your talk, you alluded to the potential 50 gigaton methane burp coming out of the Arctic from thawing of the ice.
Yeah.
And you said that it could possibly be mitigated by the mycorrhizae, or how is that? Does it store methane the same way it stores carbon?
No, this is about that methane burp is due to the ice, the permafrost melting.
Right.
And so storing carbon is to restore stability to our climate.
Okay.
That's mycorrhizae, the fungus job. I was just saying those big picture issues are so hard to grasp. What can little people like us do? Well, we can work with our garden or our yard or our forest and understand that the fungal connection is paramount. There are ways, practical ways to achieve that, and we have to learn that and embrace it and do it.
Thank you.
So I was really intrigued, Josh, because at the very beginning of your speech you had talked about how you really want to push people to shift from growing as many annuals to annual-based gardening. Sam and I are renters in Concord, New Hampshire. We're very fortunate in downtown. We actually do have a sizable side lot, and we're entering our third summer there. And our landlord is very flexible. He's allowed us to put in 2 extra garden beds, and we're putting in another one this season. But we've grown primarily annuals, and I was curious if you have, off the top of your head, maybe a handful of perennials you would highly suggest that we put into this land that will not forever be our own, but to maybe give back to this plot before we eventually move on.
Well, I like rhubarb and blueberries, and you can transplant them very well and take them with you as well. I think that'd be a good start. Raspberries, asparagus. Probably some asparagus.
Okay.
Eric Tollmeyer has a book about his journey with a lot. Paradise Lot.
Fantastic.
Right, and I'm sure that goes into depth about the
And I
things
just
he
feel like
planted.
that's very tangible. Like, what can we do today? What can we walk out with something in mind to help change our lots? And I feel like having at least maybe some really go-to perennials instead of our annuals this spring might be really a practical first step for all of us.
Plus community gardens, where you leave the next person behind to the club.
Stick some Jerusalem artichokes in there. That'd be a real gift for the next person.
Don't plant horseradish; it'll take over the whole thing.
That's such a bad thing, though.
I have a comment that I've been thinking about that really didn't get included in the talk. It has to do with the whole book thing. When I got the wild hair to write a book, in some ways I was really thinking like, oh, if I could just get this all down on paper, that'll solve it. And it's just the more I think about it, the more ridiculous that sounds. The work that we have before us is not going to get. It's not like we can get a magic bullet for any of this. It's going to be every day throughout our lifetimes. I feel like the work is incremental, and I feel like the work is it's a group process. And so I really don't. I see leaders within this movement who are aggregating. So more or less, we're trying to coalesce groups of people together, as opposed to setting up some sort of pyramid or top-down leadership format. I mean, the motivation here, for me anyway, was to just share the mistakes so we can build upon that. There's been some successes, obviously, but it is more about just trying to push this agenda forward slowly but surely.
Michael, so I know you were saying how you farm with fungi primarily as a way to really support plant health and plant growth. Have you transitioned to also thinking about, or whether you want to or not, I guess, like, have you put fungi on your market list at all? Like, are you marketing, but are you selling fungi as part of your crops that you sell to other people, along with apples and everything like that, or have you not? Is it more or less to help promote plant growth on your farm?
Well, the mycorrhizal part is all about healthy
Right.
plants. if you grow shiitakes or oyster mushrooms, we do a little of that for ourselves. but I
Okay,
got
just
into
curious.
selling.
So I have a couple garden-related questions, and I've read that you have more bacterial soil web in a garden or an annual garden, and more fungal in forest or an orchard. Now, is that because that's what those plants need, or is it just because bacteria is all you're left with when you've tilled for annual production?
It is because we've gotten into this tillage approach to
Okay.
annual agriculture.
Because I see fungal threads through my untilled annual beds, and everything seems to be fine. So that's what you'd expect.
So, but you're seeing our decomposition fungi,
Yes.
and that's a part of the story.
Yeah.
I go back to the fact that 95% of the plants on this planet have this mycorrhizal connection. And this is the normal way that plants get nutrients. We broke that.
Yeah.
And what we do is not the normal way that it works for plants on Earth. And so tomatoes, potatoes, the cabbage family and beets are not mycorrhizal. But otherwise, almost everything we grow, annually, corn, is
Okay.
going to benefit from that connection.
Can I run a couple other things by you? If you have rocks or rock walls, is that enough of a mineral base for your soil web to draw from, or do you really feel like you need to have rock powders for mineralization? I mean, if there's a lot of rock there.
Right, so New Hampshire is the granite state, and there's a lot of rocks in the soil. The rock wall is kind of out of that picture, but the rocks in the soil are certainly part of that. I think when I teach about that, two things. One, we're working with a lot of depleted, degraded soils, and this is part of the picture. There's this idea of remineralization occurs because every 10,000 years the glaciers come back through and grind up rock. So utilizing rock dust makes a lot of sense to me to restore health, not just in my garden, but in my sugar bush. Or, it's like I can see that there's benefits to that. On the other hand, it's an expense, and the goal is to get this fungal system going. So often what I'm doing, I think of as like transition, and maybe 30 years from now it'll all be like flowing and so much easier. But I'm willing to spend money on something like that. It seems good to me.
For me, the price is right as well. It's just readily available from all the quarries and stuff around here, particularly compared to like azomite or something you got to get from way far away. Being in New Hampshire, being it's so readily available, I would just go ahead and get a truckload and use it sparingly.
And is there any kind of, when you're talking about that you need the mycorrhizal network and exposure to disease to bring up good chemicals and nutrient density in plants, is there any kind of a case being made that people hear about that when you have hydroponically grown stuff that it's not nutrient dense, it's just pretty? Is that out there?
That's a true statement. I guess I haven't heard that directly. Mostly you hear it's not organic because it doesn't involve the soil. On the other hand, it's pretty fascinating what marijuana growers do. And they're using mycorrhizal fungi in a hydroponic system because it all evolved from the ocean. And I'm not going to justify hydroponics, but you just brought up a very important point. We don't just eat greens because they fill our bellies, but we eat greens that have vital nutrition, and it makes us vital. And hydroponics is disconnecting from some of those earth truths.
Yes, to me, the people that are pushing that agenda in a big way in terms of checking what's in the grocery store, be it bricks or whatever test is the Bionutrient Association, Dan Kittredge, if you get in touch with those people, they're starting pushing a very defined agenda to try to be able to measure in the grocery store this tomato versus this tomato as far as nutritional content.
Could you give me those names again?
Dan Kittredge, Bionutrient Association.
He spoke at Adelphi last year.
Yeah, he spoke at the New Hampshire Permaculture Day last year as well. There's a video with him on our YouTube site, DAcres YouTube site.
Any other questions?
I have this raised bed that we haven't planted like for 5-6 years, so it just has like a bunch of weeds. So when I go to do it, should I just like till the weeds in, or should I get rid of the weed? Like it's just like, you know, I call it my native grasslands because like I don't really have like lawn. So what should I do with it?
Me personally, I would probably sheet mulch it with cardboard and then wait a year and then plant into it. So that you just are building the soil from the top down, not removing any of the weeds. You're just suppressing the vegetation from growing and then plant right into it. Should be, you can broad fork it after a year, should be fine. I would sheet mulch it and then plant in the spring, following spring.
Oh, I can't plant it.
Maybe have to wait patience.
If you have a lot of compost, you can plant right on top of the
I just barely started composting. You know?
Yeah, some of
Anybody else have any questions for the
This is for Michael. You said the fungi you can see. So that's not the fungi you're talking about. You're talking about the invisible fungi. Is there a way to recognize that when you're adding the mycorrhizal inoculants to recognize that it's working? Besides, years down the road, you have this thriving ecosystem.
So with an orchard or a perennial system, you're going to get that established and it's going to be there. But just like growing garlic and you don't deal with fusarium or white rot, that's because health connections are in place. So just the fact that you're seeing less disease and flavor, you know, we humans do have a way to know this is really good and it's connected. And this is produce, this is an apple. I really want to eat all the way to the core. To me, it is subtle, but that's all connected to that living soil ecosystem growing nutrient-dense, phytochemically rich foods. And the fungi are part of that. So if it's working and it's happening, you're being fungal. That's great.
The observational level, I think it's all about the crumble. You know, just if you broad fork in and you notice that it's chunky versus it just sort of coming apart. So you'll see it through observation, the soil is actually holding itself together more, which is going to enhance the water retention, the ability for water to transfer horizontally in that soil strata, as well as prevent erosion. You know, wind just can't blow it away. So you'll see through observation, you'll be able to see the messaging.
I have another question, actually. If that's okay. I own a lot. My land is mostly pine trees, and so I'm just kind of clearing out a lot of like the dead branches and stuff right now. And I'm really interested in this whole forest farming thing. Is there something like I can actually put like where all the pine trees are growing, like or organically to grow, or is there something I can do like where it'll just be kind of like a natural growth? I have a lot of fern, I have a lot of pine trees, I have some oak trees. I don't know very much about it.
You're asking about plant diversity, right? Is that what?
Well, like what could I plant where all the pine trees and stuff are? Like I have a lot of forest in my yard already. So instead of like, you know, I have that one raised bed, but then I have a lot of forest. So is there anything I can plant within the forest, is my question.
Well, there's lots of understory species, and you know, there's berry-producing shrubs that are going to work in a pine forest. It's also a question of sunlight, and that it's not
Okay,
totally
so it's a complicated question.
forest.
And
It is a complicated question.
Right.
You're going to have to know like blackberries, raspberries, things that like having a high acid content, that neutralize a lot of lime. So the things you can work with instead of fighting against, for sure.
What? I didn't hear you.
The pine trees are indicative perhaps that there's a high acid content
Yeah, I heard
or higher, lower pH. And so you'll be looking for plants that thrive in those conditions. And blueberries are a great example of plants that will thrive. And perhaps you can figure out an advantage to all those pine needles, maybe use the pine needles as mulch for weed suppression around your blueberries. But yeah, you're trying to make advantage. The critical advantage that I find for pine trees is building materials.
I live on Pine Tree Road. I have a lot of building materials.
Cut them down and rebuild a greenhouse.
Going back to what you're saying about hydroponics and mycorrhizae, do you have any experience with that? You're saying something about people growing marijuana or utilizing it to best advantage?
So in that case, I'm looking forward to just growing marijuana outside. But the fact that both plants and fungi have sea origins, when mycorrhizal fungi, and they're not building soil aggregates in this system, but that extension of the nutrient reach of the plant and the kind of partially built nutrition aspect, it's not the same as a living soil system, but that begins to push things in the natural direction. I mean, it's hydroponics, it's totally not natural, but it's at least introducing some of those soil microbes, including mycorrhizal fungi, that assist those growers.
So I have a couple of different things going on. And one of the things that seems to work really well for me in the winter months is hydroponics down in the basement under LED lights. And obviously, concern that you mentioned is nutrition. Are these things just plants with nothing in them, or are they actually valuable? I'd like to pay attention to that. And I was just curious if you had, if you know of anybody that's done that. Is anybody doing hydroponics in mycorrhizae? I guess is the question.
I don't know those growers directly. I've learned of them, and I've learned why. But no, I'm not. So I don't.
I know Eric Tonesmeyer is experimenting on a small scale in his own greenhouse, combining aquaponics with hydroponics, where he has fish growing in a barrel, and he pumps some of that water vertically to a bunch of trays where he has shallow greens growing, and the greens are growing into the water from the fish pump, from the fish barrel, so they're getting their nutrition from that.
Yeah,
There's no mycorrhizae involved, but it's at least natural.
More natural
organic fertilizer.
I have trout, and those are pumped over. Trout poop is pumped over a gravel bed, which then grows tomatoes, so on and so forth. And that works really well, but not in the winter because it freezes up out of the greenhouse. And I tried putting fish down in my basement last year, but my wife put a kibosh on it. No fish in the basement. So for whatever reason, she's okay with the hydroponics in the basement. I don't know what the difference is. It's still water, pumps, and plants, and lights and stuff. The trout have to remain out in the greenhouse, but because it's not a heated greenhouse, passive solar, it freezes up. So that's why I'm doing hydroponics in the basement, because someone will let me do that. Just to explain the difference between what I got going on. But aquaponics works really well. In case anybody wants to try it, fish poop grows stuff really well.
Why not just create some beds in your basement? Bring some soil in. Make it if you're doing the LED lights. I don't see why you couldn't.
You could do that.
You could water it with the aquaponics.
I can't have fish in the basement. It's been ruled out.
Put the barrel water in 5-gallon jugs and carry it into the basement, or pump it in.
The fish are happy. They're cold. They're hanging out under the ice in the greenhouse. They're fine. But I just wanted to know if there was, I would actually like to try inoculating the
We want to hear what happens. Because we really, neither one of us grows in that medium, but we're definitely interested in hearing. And I think the possibilities for experimentation are endless.
Well, I'll do one gutter, and that way I'll have an A/B test.
Awesome.
So in the absence of mayor's council, we have one last question?
Yeah, I guess this might be a little off topic. It's more about rock dust. Just wondering if it's like a byproduct of the quarrying mining industry, and it's just like if you buy it, are you supporting mining?
It's sort of a waste product that they've identified, and there are potential. I mean, I wouldn't breathe it in, and it potentially has radiation or a higher radiation content than your normal whatever. So those are the two sort of hazard warnings that I would throw on it. But you can get it fairly cheap in our region.
Great.
So let's call that night. I'm glad you guys all came. Before you leave as many as you can, it would be great if you could support these two by buying Michael's book tonight and recommend it to your friends. And I'd be glad to sign it and personalize it for you. So thanks so much for coming tonight.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you.